What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Let's Talk About It podcast. I am your host, Leon Reed Jones, and today we got another very, very special guest. One of my brothers, man, a good dude, solid guy, hardworking guy. We got none other than Sergeant Howard. What's up, my guy?
How you doing, man? Glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity first and foremost.
Yes, sir, man. I wanted to throw in there, man, you're a Lions fan, but you feel me? We got to leave that alone, man. It's still the same old Lions, believe it or not, man.
It's a new day.
Well, what's up with you, man? Let's get into your story, man. How you grew up, background.
Okay. So I was born and raised in Detroit. Grew up on the west side, Tireman, Wyoming, Joy Road area. Came from a pretty much single parent household. Grew up with my mom, my grandparents. Dad wasn't really too much in the home, but like I said, I had that support. I had that foundation, from my grandparents. Thankfully, I thank God for them every day. Came through DPS, like a lot of Detroiters. Came through Detroit Public Schools, graduated from Cass Technical High School. Went to Wayne State for a little bit. But back when I was at Cass, that's when I kind of, decided to make that decision to join the Michigan Army National Guard. I did that because I had to go to join college. Obviously, college requires money. It wasn't a lot of that flowing through the household, though, due to, being a single parent household. So I made the decision to join the National Guard at the age of 17. One of the best decisions I could have made, I think. I think every young person, who has the opportunity, who's able-bodied, they should do it at least for, the shortest term possible. You get to meet so many different people, get so many different experiences, and obviously, the benefits. You get to go to college for free, make some money. So, I've just been blessed. Just purchased a house last year at the age of 21. So, yes, sir. God is good, So I'm just trying to get to it, just trying to make my impact.
For sure, man. And you said something that I just kind of want to expound on just for a little bit. You said you grew up with your mom and your grandparents in the home, and your pops really wasn't, as, present in your life. What did that do for you, and how do you feel like it shaped your character to where you are now?
I think that it was good that I had that, I had my grandparents in the home. I actually get a little bit transparent. I got to talk to my dad, didn't really see him much growing up, but I actually got kind of reconnected with him earlier this year. And I kind of asked him, I'm like, so where were you at? You know what I'm saying? Because after, 20 some years, it's like, so what's going on? So he told me his story. He was pretty much in the streets, dealing, doing his thing, in and out of jail kind of thing. So it was kind of crazy that, hindsight is 2020. I'm like, wow, it's probably good he wasn't around then, because that influence, the stuff he was doing back then when I was coming up, that probably would have influenced me to go a negative route. But definitely growing up with my grandparents, they, instilled character, instilled a lot of, good values with me. I always say, I always nod back to my grandfather, who's still living, of course. He always says, if you don't work, you don't eat. And I got this tattoo. I actually got this tattoo, and it comes straight out the Bible. It say, a man that doesn't work doesn't eat. So,
for real, man. Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, I just kind of look at it from a standpoint, like I was, blessed to be able to have both my parents in my life. Mm-hmm. But I think the misconceptions when you talk about that is like a lot of times people feel like because you have a 2-parent home, that means you automatically gonna be successful, or you're not gonna have like any trials or tribulations.
Yep.
It's great that people have 2-parent homes, but it's not to say that, because you didn't have your pops, you wasn't gonna amount to nothing. Yep. But it does affect you. It's a factor.
For sure.
But like you said, man, look where you are now. And a lot of times, it's best that certain things don't happen. And, God is always in control, man. So it's, it's dope to see, that you press forward and didn't let that stop you. But what was the first career choice for you? Like growing up, whether it was something you decided in middle school, high school, like what did you initially want to do?
So I'm gonna actually take you down the line. So funny enough, growing up is so funny. I actually wanted to be a garbage man. It's crazy that I say that because my mom, my grandma, they was like, yeah, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, kind of those careers that, sure, get championed through the community. But I wanted to be a garbage man because for some reason, I feel like, they moving through the city, every week, they keeping the city clean. That's their impact, you know what I'm saying? You know, a little, if they know it or not, but they making some type of impact. But as I got older, I decided that I wanted to turn, you know, towards business. So I always wanted to go to school for business, whether it was, you know, doing something with stocks or doing something with finance or something like that. Then once I got into high school, I did JROTC. I was like, okay, I might want to, you know, look at the military, because I always kind of revered the military. You know, I kind of always kind of held them in high standard. My mom, she had a friend, he was in the military, you know, fought in the Iraq War and everything, and so kind of seeing him growing up, I was like, that might be something I want to pursue. So going through high school, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do business. I'm gonna get my business degree. Then I'm gonna be an officer in the Army. That didn't pan out quite how we wanted it to, but you know, I actually think I'm in a better position now, you know, than I had planned for myself, you know, 5-6 years ago. Then I wanted to be an accountant, so that's how I kind of trained my mind on going to college, you know, going to Wayne State doing accounting, which I did. I did go to Wayne State, you know, I did, you know, study accounting, but obviously that's not my primary career field now. So now I'm a, you know, staff sergeant in the Michigan Army National Guard, doing recruiting in the city of Detroit, you know, giving back. So I think it kind of went full circle. You know, this is kind of, you know, it wasn't what I had planned 5 years ago, but this is actually the best decision, you know, the best path that I could have went on.
Yeah, man, it's crazy like how life worked, because, you know, like I was just thinking, like how you were saying, taking me down memory lane of all the career choices that you had leading up until this. And me, like, at first, the first thing that I wanted to be was an astronaut. And the whole time, it was only because I had an action figure that had an astronaut, you feel me, uniform on it. Then after that, you know, I was big into wrestling, so I wanted to become a WWE wrestler. But then that kind of really faded away. At one point, I want to be, I mean, I sort of am, but it's more so, I want to be a athletic trainer. But as years went by, I think I started wanting to be an athletic trainer in 10th grade, like, because I had messed my knee up. And then I saw how, like, they got people back together or whatever. And it was like, I've always had this mindset of whatever I do, I wanted to impact people in a positive light and help people. But now, one of my jobs is I'm a coach, because I feel like a coach is a motivator, and I also speak. So it's like those two go hand in hand. So it's just crazy. Like you said, man, life come full circle in a journey. Like a lot of times, man, we go through stuff, or like we do things and we think it's geared toward this set thing that we want to happen, but the whole time it's just setting us up for something greater that we never even imagined.
For sure.
So for you, man, like taking it back, because I have an older brother that graduated from Cass Tech. I didn't get the experience. I just heard about how great it was, or if I wasn't hearing about Cass, I was hearing about King. So how was Cass for you? How was that experience being there, like being a part of like a legendary school like that?
Okay, so funny enough, and once again throwing it back a little bit, so I always wanted to go to Cass Tech. I was in elementary, middle school, like, hey, I'm gonna go to Cass Tech. My mom, she's like, where'd this come from? You know, because I only had like one cousin out of, you know, tens of cousins that, you know, went to McKenzie. I only had one cousin that ended up going to Cass Tech and graduating. And she was like, you know, 20, 30 years older than me. And she never said anything about it. But I always used to kind of hear it in the news. So I'm like, well, if this always in the news, then I guess I need to be there. So that's kind of what I had trained my mind on. But, you know, Cass Tech, I think, is one of the top schools in the state. I'm not going to go into the rivalry things, but, you know, I always just say, look, you want a well-rounded high school experience. And I think, you know, whether it's sports, academics, career preparation, college preparation for sure, Cass Tech is definitely the school, you know, to go to. Looking at me that 4 years, I think that was probably like the toughest 4 years of my life, but it was also the most rewarding. I met some very cool dudes who I still, you know, kick it with today. Those are kind of like my brothers, you know, they all doing positive things, you know, whether it's getting a degree, going into trades, wherever the case may be. So I definitely think, you know, as tough of a school it is, it's definitely, you know, a positive school. It's definitely, you know, gonna prepare you for life, I would say.
For sure. And what would you say, because I know you said it was a tough 4 years. What was that? How were you in school? And then if you were saying your opinion on the quote unquote negative side or not as serious side when you were in school, what was that turning point for you? Like, man, I got to get it together.
So Yeah, I was terrible in school. I ain't gonna lie. I graduated 2.6, 2.7, just barely. You gotta have a certain GPA to stay in cash. You gotta have a 2.5. If you get below 2.5, they send a letter out like, hey, you're on academic probation. You got 1 or 2 semesters to get it together. If you don't get it together, you about to go to your neighborhood school. Mine being Cody or Mumford, which that was a couple tough schools. You know what I'm saying?
For real.
So I think that it was just key that, I had to stay focused. I had to do at least the bare minimum to stay at cash. You know what I'm saying? I was always a pretty smart kid. It was crazy because I was just talking to my friend about it. My friend, he's always like, man, Q, you should have, did better in school. You'll probably be at Harvard right now. But, I don't think my work ethic was there, where it needed to be for me to, get those full rides and, get accepted to the University of Michigan, things like that. I got accepted to quite a few colleges though, when it was all said and done, your state colleges, because I did pretty good on the SAT, but like I said, my grades, they just wasn't, U of M quality for lack of better words,
Nah, man, it's so crazy. Like for me, like, man, all I hear nowadays when they come to me, and I just laugh for real because I just know how I was in school. Like my teachers, I saw some of my teachers yesterday because we, had a alumni weekend for our school the first time in like a while. And they was just like, we're just so proud of you. Like you're doing so many great things. And to like see where I was, because I was a lot like you, bro. Like my biggest thing was like, it wasn't that I was like struggling with work. It was more so like, I just wanted to be a clown. Like I just wanted to goof off. Like, cause I'm like, love making people laugh, love things being like super silly, positive. But it was like, I had to learn that it was a time and a place. But I knew that already, but I really just had to accept the fact and like really move in that. And it wasn't until I was in 8th grade that she was my Spanish teacher, my math teacher, and I think she may have taught us something else. But her name was Mrs. Gray. So shout out to Mrs. Gray.
For sure.
I saw her yesterday too. She told me, she pulled me to the side, and I think I had got in trouble on this day too. She was like, Leon, if you don't get it together, you're going to high school next year. So if you don't get it together, that's where, when high school starts, that's you can't afford to play around. Like, I don't care what school you go to, you can't play around. And like, I will always, even when I was still beginning to clown and stuff like that, I will always keep that in the back of my head. But I think, you feel me? When my mom's got sick in 10th grade, I think that was the turning point for me. Well, I don't think, I know that was. And, from there on forward, it was just like I locked in. It was like, I can't just play around with this thing because, my mom, to this day, even with her, not being here anymore, like she is my biggest why. Aside from me wanting to do things like to be successful for myself and, my family, she's my biggest why by far. So it's like, man, you got to get it together, bro. Like you can play, another time. Yeah. But I guess my follow-up question after that, have there been times or were there times where you could have went the negative route or the other route, so to speak, instead of, the path that you took to get you where you are now?
Yeah. So, I almost said no, but it definitely was. So, like I said, I was built on I came from a household of values, character, things like that. So, I always knew like crime was not in the picture, my granddad, he always joked, he said, look, if you get down there, you better find your way out.
Nah, for real though.
So, sure, I kind of was like, I'm about to, walk the straight and narrow, but I had a lot of friends, I ain't telling on nobody, but, I had a lot of people, just, not in my circle per se, but, they were, scamming, or drugs or weed or whatever the case may be. And I was like, like I said, I'm coming from humble beginnings. I see these dudes, they my age, they same neighborhood. They got, $1,000 sneaks on, they got all these designer on, hey, I ain't gonna lie, my clothes from Walmart, I'm getting my uniform from Walmart. I'm in uniform every day because that's all I got. Yeah. So I'm like, dang, it's not fair, but at the same time, I was like, it's coming. I'm gonna have my time where, I can, wear some expensive threads or, show out or, whatever the case may be. So I'm just glad I saw it through, you know what I'm saying? And it's still more coming,
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, bro. You said something that I always tell people. Like, people are like so microwavable. Like, they want things ready instantly. And depending on the person, they get envious and like greedy to where they'll go out and do something. I wouldn't even say against their character, but it's just not gonna be good in the end. Like, people make a lot of, you know, temporary decisions that have lifetime effects, not knowing, like, and this is my thing. Like, I'm big on, like, when you make decisions, and a lot of dudes don't really, like, and I'm not even saying dudes, like, people in general, women or men, like, a lot of people just don't, like, stop to think, like, dang, I got a kid on the way, or I currently got a kid. Yeah. I got a wife, I got a girlfriend. And even if you don't got none of that, you got yourself.
Exactly.
So it's like, if anything, you should want to value and keep straight what you got going on by yourself. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times people don't really stop and think, like, man, I could be here after just doing this after 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Yep. You get what I'm saying? You look at the movie When They See Us, like, and all that transpired. Now, a lot of that stuff wasn't their fault, but, you know, I forget one of the guys' names. He was in a situation where he was out too late when he should have been somewhere else, and because of somebody else, he got caught up in a situation that he wouldn't even been in had he been somewhere else. Right. And it's like, man, you know how they say, you know, wrong place, right time. You get me? Like, it's all these different things that happen, man. And it's just like you, man. It's so crazy. We got so many similarities, bro. We, you feel me, talk off camera a lot about it. And it's like, I was, even though I lived in the, I guess you could say, quote unquote hood, but it was like, I never carried that mentality. Like, I never carried the fact that this where I stay, this how I gotta be. You feel me? Because I saw it around me. I saw it in my family on both sides, but it was like my parents and my upbringing, and also like me being a person, like, that's not the life I want to live. And I'm glad I felt that way at an early age. I'm talking about like middle school. Like, bro, I don't want to do that. Like, yeah, you may catch me goofing off playing pranks, but I'm not robbing nobody. I'm not stealing. Like, I'm not out here trying to be in nobody's gang. Like, I'm good on that. Like, most you might get out of me is a joke. Like, because that's just not me. And I'm okay with that. Even coming from where I come from. You feel me? So it's like, that's big, bro. Like, decisions, you know, determine your destination, bro. I say it all the time.
Most definitely.
And for you, man, I look at your career and what you're doing, and the question is proposed that, you know, for you, why, you said you went to Wayne State, so why, or what was shown to you, or what happened to where you was like, you know, I got accepted to these different colleges, but this is the route that I feel like I'm supposed to take. Like, how did that process go, or what made you say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do now?
Okay, so that's a pretty loaded question. So be reminded, I joined the military so that I could pay for school, because I knew for a fact, like, one, I wasn't taking out student loans. You know, I'd seen, you know, from relatives, just different people. I'm like, yeah, student loans, that ain't for me. You know what I'm saying? Two, I feel like, you know, just even if I didn't, you know, decide to go to college, I could still have, you know, different pathways, different skill sets. Right. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna start, you know, I'm gonna lay the foundation, join the Michigan Army National Guard, graduated, went to training, all of that good stuff. Then I started at Wayne State. So I always tell this story while I'm recruiting. I went to Wayne State, everything was free. You know what I'm saying? Tuition free, you know. They put a little money in my pocket while I was going to school. For sure. And so then COVID-19 hit, and I was like, okay, everything went virtual. You know, I'm pretty sure you remember for sure. Man. And so that wasn't a good skill set for me, because, like I said, be reminded, I wasn't the best student in high school. So now we virtual. Now it's really no accountability. I was like, yeah, I did my one semester. I was like, yeah, I can't do this, you know, for several semesters going forward. But funny enough, with the pandemic, you know, they were calling up a lot of National Guardsmen. You know, we were, you know, helping with testing sites, helping with, you know, keeping armories kind of sanitized, keeping them safe and everything like that. Or, you know, our armories, our buildings, you know, around the state where we work out of, that 1 week in a month. But yeah, so I kind of like the quote, you know, Dr. Eric Thomas, he said, you know, putting yourself in miracle territory. Yeah. I was always a pretty good soldier. You know, I was always, you know, hungry for knowledge, hungry, you know, to get whatever experience I could. At the time I was a human resources specialist. So they had full-time position in the National Guard where, you know, instead of working just the 2 days a month, 2 weeks in the summer, you can, do it all throughout the week. So they brought me on for a temporary position. They was like, okay, from July to October, you'll be helping us, in the HR shop, just, doing administrative work. So I took the opportunity and ran with it because, like I said, at this point, I dropped out of college. It's July 2020. I dropped out of college, don't really got too much money coming in, besides my little check from the 2 days a month.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I'll take this opportunity because initially I was about to just, switch from the Army National Guard to the regular Army, which that was going to bring me full time. I was probably going to have to go away from my family, go away from my girl that I had at the time. I was like, I ain't really too, keen on doing that. But if I got to do it, I got to do it. But that alternative opportunity was presented to me. And then everything kind of went up from there. I did pretty good while I was temporary. So they was like, okay, you need to look into doing this permanent. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, okay. Because I was doing it so well. So I applied and like I applied probably like 3 times to 3 different positions. The first one was in Lansing. Didn't get it. And I was crushed. I was like, man, I did my best. Like what I'm doing wrong.
Right.
Applied a second time for a position in Howard, Michigan. I thought they loved me. You know what I'm saying? Because right. I go to the interview, I'm crushing the questions. We laughing and joking in the interview. I'm like, okay, yeah, we smooth. I'm for sure gonna get this.
Right.
Got the call next week. Number 2 out of the 10 people that applied, didn't get it. So I'm like, oh my God. So I kind of was like at a low point. So I went to my 3rd and final interview. It was in Taylor, Michigan. Went to the interview. I felt I was kind of cocky though, because I was like, okay, I got number 2 both times. I should be number 1 this time. Didn't do too good in the interview. But I told my story at the end. I said, look, I'm doing it full time right now. I love the discipline of human resources. I love taking care of other soldiers, making sure, they getting paid on time, making sure they paperwork's right, making sure, they going through their career, at how they supposed to. So I told my story to them, and 2 weeks later they said, hey, you got the job. I felt like I made it to the league, what I'm saying? Because I'm permanent, I'm, at the time I'm 19 years old. It's a position, making, 50 and up. I'm like, wow, I'm thanking God, I'm blessed. I got my health insurance. I got all my retirement, all of this. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, we in business. So after that, I did human resources out in Taylor. I moved out my people's crib, got my own place. Then did that for 20 months. Then July 2022, it came down to, the National Guard started doing budget cuts. They had to cut some full-time positions, which I wasn't going to get cut per se, but I was going to have to leave my position and go to a different position that they needed filled.
Right. And
so that was going to take me up to the Flint area. And I was like, well, that's not going to work for me because, I got my peoples down here, I can't be up in Flint, So came the recruiting commander. He came to my office one day. He came all the way down from Lansing to Taylor. Yeah. That ain't no short drive. He came to my office one day, and so he was like, "Hey, Sergeant Howard, I heard about your situation. I heard that you good at getting people to join the National Guard because I tell anybody even before I was a recruiter, I'm like, hey, you should join the National Guard, just to get an opportunity, get some job experience or get school paid for or whatever. And I had probably like 6-7 people join the National Guard just before I became a recruiter, just off me telling them about it. So he was like, yeah, I saw what you've been doing, man, and I think you should come and be a recruiter for me. I'm like, all right, but I got to be in Detroit, because I put my city first, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so I was like, I got to be in Detroit. So he said, deal, shook my hand. A month later, I'm set up in my office, got my own office now in Detroit. I'm able to, bought my house probably like a month after that, because I finally know for a fact I'm going to be in the city, so just a lot of blessings came, just by, just being a good soldier, being good at, putting my all into what I was doing,
Yeah, man. God is good, bro.
All the time.
Yes, sir. And hearing all that, man, I think another misconception that people don't really talk about as much, you kind of alluded to it earlier, like when you said your grandparents, when you said you wanted to start off at first as a garbage man, the typical person that hear that may laugh, may be like, oh, da, da. But the way you kind of explained it, and which a lot of people don't give you opportunities to do when you kind of say what you want to do in life. Mm-hmm. Like you was like, man, they providing for the city, they helping out. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like what I say a lot of times. I treat the garbage man the same way I treat the CEO.
Most definitely.
Because even though he a businessman and you may look at him as a more top dog than the garbage man, they both providing you with a service, and
Most
they both
definitely.
helping you out on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
So, you know, in saying all of that, I think there's a misconception, you know, when it comes to careers, like, because on one flip side, it's like, we don't need the typical basketball player, rapper, actor, and da-da-da.
Mhm.
But on the other end, how about we look at it as, you know, you don't need to force somebody to be a lawyer, a doctor,
Yeah.
or, an accountant.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of careers out here that can provide services that can help people, or that people are passionate about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, who am I to stop a girl from wanting to do makeup because she can go be a doctor? You don't know what type of work ethic that this woman has that could, you know, she can now have her own business. Or who am I to shoot down a guy that want to go play basketball? He may not make it to the league, but he may go play overseas.
Exactly.
You get me? Like, it's different stuff. Like, I can see if a dude ain't working hard, then it's one thing to be like, yeah, you probably should get that up, bro.
Right.
But if somebody like really passionate, putting in the hours, then what's the knock? I think that's a big misconception that we have, you know, when it comes to careers. But we're going to move to a segment, man. But before we do that, I want to say I appreciate you, man. And I look at your career and like how you so passionate about getting a lot of the youth into the National Guard. And if y'all watching, you know, tap in with my guy, Sergeant Howard, man, to get in the National Guard, man. He got you covered. But
for sure.
I would say, you know, like, just looking at how you move and like what your career is doing, I think it's important to know that there's always another way.
For sure.
I think a lot of times people is like, this is the set blueprint. But I think we also have to realize that no matter what career or path that you take, you just got to be focused, consistent, humble, you know, always, of course, keep God first.
Most definitely.
But, you know, stay passionate, one, but, you know, do what you need to do, because it's not one set way to do things. Michael Jordan got 6 rings winning his way. LeBron got rings winning his way.
Right.
Larry Bird got rings, you know, Tom Brady, but they all did it the way that it needed to be done for them.
Yep. Perfect.
So, you know what I'm saying? Everybody, it's not just one set way. You can be successful in multiple ways, but you got to do the work.
Most definitely.
So, with that being said, man, we're going to move into a segment I like to call Let Me Get to Know You.
For sure.
And I got a few questions for you, just about 3 questions.
Okay.
So, the first one, we're going to start off with a banger. So, you pick the one that's best for you that you would pick.
Okay.
So, who's the better, I guess I would say, boss or a better person who handles things? Would you say Franklin from Snowfall, Ghost from Power, or Meech from BMF, and why?
I gotta go with my boy Franklin, man. I
Yes,
love
sir.
Snowfall. I love Snowfall. I watched a little bit of Power,
sir.
but I love Snowfall. So
Yes, sir.
Franklin just went, and it was crazy. Like, he went from in the financial aid office, you know, going crazy, to now he running the city. Now he got it coming in and out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Franklin, like, he was like the definition of by any means necessary. Like, that jump was crazy. So it was out cold. I gotta, the show ain't in how I wanted it to, but man, I gotta, the hustle we put in, you gotta respect it.
You know, bro. That junk did not end well. I'm gonna go Franklin too, but something in me is wanting to lean a little bit towards Meech, but not just because Snowfall my show, but Franklin is different, man.
Yeah,
he's just different.
Definitely.
I really just can't even explain it for real.
For sure.
But the second question, man, who do you think is a funnier comedian or just a funnier person in general? Would you go Drewski or Desi Banks?
I gotta go with Drewski. So, like, Desi Banks is hilarious, don't get me wrong, but Drewski don't gotta try. Like, I was just talking with my friend. I was just talking with my friend about this like last week. I'm like, Drewski just like naturally hilarious.
No, for sure.
And so, like, I don't know if y'all follow me on TikTok, you know, SGT Howard. No, I'm just playing, but I use a lot of his sounds, but it's just crazy because, like, that's just naturally him. Like, he's just naturally funny. Like, he ain't gotta do nothing. He don't gotta try. He just naturally funny. I feel like Desi Banks, which, I mean, that's comedian's job to be funny, you know, try and be funny.
Right.
He be milking it a little bit, but that boy Drewski just naturally hilarious.
No, for real, man. Drewski, bro, I ain't gonna lie. When I started seeing his videos, I'm like, bro, dude, because, like, for Drewski, like, I feel like with him, like, a lot of his stuff, like, a lot of the comedians that's, like, on Instagram, like, a lot of their stuff be like relatable or like funny or like you done seen that happen with somebody you know. But it's like the way he do it, and it's like on top of it, it's like, bro, dudes be doing that, or like women do be doing that. It's like you said, man, he naturally funny. So I go Drewski too for sure. Yeah. And the last one, man, I want to see how I want to do this. Were you more so a Disney guy growing up, a Nickelodeon guy, or a Cartoon Network guy, and why?
Oh, man. So I was like, it's between Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, because like you had all your shows, you had your Fairly Odd Parents, you had your, you know, Rocko's Modern Life, you hang out. Now I'm saying, I'm like, dang,
no, for real.
It's like right between Cartoon Network and like Nickelodeon, because like, I used to love them shows. I used to love Ben 10. I used to love, you know, Foster's Home. So I'm straddled between Nick and Cartoon Network. If it came down to it, like overall, it's gonna be Cartoon Network, because like they was able to sustain it like into like the 2010s. No, Nickelodeon kind of like fell off towards that 2010 mark, but they all had some bangers, you know, growing up, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's crazy because Disney, I don't think they got good shows no more like that. Nah. I mean, it's you got a few, but I'm going to go with Disney just off the strength of they had so much. Like, don't get me wrong, all three of these shows, Disney, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, had great stuff. Like, when I think about Nickelodeon, I'm thinking of Ned's Declassified, School Survival Guide, Drake and Josh, all that, Kenan and Kel. You got all that. And then, you know, for the real ones that really know, Toonami, you know, that used to come on late night, early morning. You feel me? You got Dragon Ball Z coming on. You got all this different stuff. But Disney, they just had so much stuff. Like, you had House of Mouse. You had Goof Troop. You had, like, all these different things. Like, the Bears Big Blue House, PBJ, all this different stuff. So I'm going to go Disney just because, like, Disney just was on it. Like, I was just thinking, like, on my way to this run this morning, like, Disney really had, because I seen some like stuff on YouTube about Disney, like it was like a little promo from like back in the day, and it's like, bro, even though I'm only like 24, bro, it's so crazy to see like we got to live through VCRs and DVDs, Blu-ray DVDs, and now we have streaming services. But we really grew up in an era where like you had to record, like you can still record shows, don't get me wrong, but like we grew up in an era where you had to record it to make sure you watch it. Like now you don't even got to do that now. If you got Disney Plus or Paramount Plus, all these different Plus shows, like it's so crazy. Like, bruh, like waking up in the morning, listening to the Disney like stuff, or like Nick Jr., Cartoon Network, like all that, like Boomerang, like all that's like, man, bro, we classics. Really grew up in that time to where it's like, man, like they used to do the whole wand thing. It's crazy.
Oh yeah,
like man. It was so much stuff, but I'm a definitely go Disney, man.
I feel it. I ain't mad at that one.
For sure. But before we get out of here, man, what is some advice, whether it be for those joining the National Guard or just some advice in general that you would give somebody?
Y'all, it was some kids, they just asked me that when I was giving their classroom a presentation last week, but I can't say enough. Like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yes, whatever it is, you know, whether you want to be a rapper, you want to join the military, you want to be a doctor, you have to start thinking ahead. Like, it's just so important, you know, like looking at me, I've always, it was funny because somebody just asked me yesterday, it was like, did you always have your life planned out? I was like, yeah, I kind of did, you know what I'm saying? Nothing really went to plan, but because I had that framework in place, I at least had something to, you know, if I strayed off the path a little bit, I knew where I was gonna go next. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, whether you want to be a rapper, you know, you strategize for that, or whether you want to, you know, join the military, go to trade school, you know, go to college, whatever it is, you just have to plan. Planning is key.
No, for sure, man. And y'all, thank y'all for coming in, tuning in. Big shout out to my guy Sergeant Howard. Again, another great big shout out to Audio Wave Network for holding us down. Thank y'all, man. That's a wrap. We'll see y'all same time, same place. Appreciate y'all.